tell people is it's amazing. We buy multi-million-dollar assets and we turn them over to run for a 40 or maybe a $50,000 employee a year.
Yeah,
because they're really the boots on the ground. They're the leasing agent or the property manager. And this one was one during the due diligence. We had identified the property manager had literally been on the property for 25 years. The owners, the existing sellers had owned it that long, and she'd been there the whole time. And so she'd raised her family there. And we decided to keep her because of that knowledge.
Welcome, Real Estate Hustlers Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Appleman. Today we're joined with Randy. He's the founder and president of InvestArk Properties. Manages around $350 million in assets across 1,500 doors. He's a CPA with an MBA in finance, helps passive investors grow wealth through proven multifamily strategies. Randy, we appreciate you coming on the show today. If you could, let the listeners know a little bit more about yourself.
Josh, thanks first of all so much. It's great to be on your show and appreciate the opportunity to just build into some of your listeners. Randy Langendorfer, Houston, Texas today, although I am a Buckeye at heart too, Josh. Relocated down here from Cleveland, Ohio about 12 years ago, 11 years ago, and grew up in Findlay, Ohio. So go Bucks. And
Absolutely.
Proud to be a Buckeye down here in SEC country this time of the year, but especially after the national champs. But got into my story goes back to about 2009, 2010. I was working actually in Akron, Ohio for a private equity firm. And I made the realization that I could get laid off at any time. And so I had that aha moment that I really needed to find another source of income. And at that time, I really set about on a journey to do that. And I started looking at small businesses, franchises, to run something to create another revenue stream. And it just multifamily fell into my lap. I should say real estate fell into my lap when I had a brother-in-law who was an exec for a large, well, you would know, National City Bank, now PNC in Ohio. And he had gotten displaced, and he asked me to come alongside him to start flipping houses. And so we did that for a couple of years. We were hard money lenders. We weren't the ones out making the actual changes. We were the hard money lenders to a group in South Florida. And I mentioned my aha moment at the career when I needed to find another job, and I ended up landing a job here in Houston, Texas. And so I really spent about the last 10 years training myself, educating myself, invested my own money in multifamily. And that's what I've been up to ever since about 2014. And did my first LP in 14, invested in a couple others deals with the idea that I really wanted to be my own GP. Did my first syndication as a general partner in 2018. A whirlwind of challenges and uphill climbs, and but we got through it and made it out. So fast forward today, as you said, I'm a general partner in about 1,300 doors. I still invest in other people's properties. I left the corporate world, so we can talk about any of those. I left the corporate world about a year and a half ago to do this full time. Loving life, doing what I want to do versus working for the man these days.
And so you built up a large portfolio while doing a full-time job as well. So one for the other. Were you raising capital, or what was the strategy?
It was both. I'm a lead partner. I'm a capital raiser. I'm a GP. A KP on deals. So a little bit of everything. The lead partnership, one deal here in Houston, we syndicated, and myself and another partner are the lead partner. So a little bit of it all.
Got it. Let's go back to your first deal, how you found it, how it all came together, and how it worked out.
Right. Well, going from 0 to 1 is always the most difficult, we know, and that is true for me as well. But this one was really a deal. I'm in Houston. This deal was in Beaumont, Texas, about 110 miles due east of Houston on 10 between here and Lake Charles. I had a buddy of mine that actually identified it. It's 139 units, flat roof, chiller boiler, built in 1965. So pause. If any of your listeners are out there and somebody brings you an opportunity like that, run from it. It was a great education. I had one of my mentors said, "Randy, don't do it." He said, "Chiller boilers, there's a lot of problems." And so 2 months into the deal, we ended up getting it and closing it, raised money. closed on it. 2 months into the deal, we had a fire, took out 28 units of the 139. And the crap hit the fan then. And I basically ended up becoming the regional property manager because the firm we had was inept and talking about, leasing rates and maintenance requests and everything else. And so I tell people I got my honorary PhD in property management through the School of Hard Knocks on that deal. But we were able to successfully turn it over in 21 months and doubled the investors' money. So it was a great deal, but a lot of work, and one I hope I don't have to repeat anytime soon. So
that's that's where wisdom comes in too, because if you're constantly learning, constantly evolving, and now and you wish you knew then what you know now. That's it's just it, but you're right. The first deal makes the second deal happen. So and I think that's why it became a success, is because you're all in.
yeah, I think you're right. And that group led to another group and other opportunities. And like you said, it's once you're in the game, once you get your GP card per se, then things start changing, and you are talking to other people, and you're in the game. You're on the field, you're playing. So it does change things. But to your audience, don't be disenchanted. It took me probably a year and a half or so to find that first deal. And make sure don't be jumping into just any deal. Make sure it works for you and what your business strategy is, so do your due diligence. Don't just be overly excited about getting a deal for that first one. You got to still do the due diligence. You got to raise money. You got to talk to people. You got to have property managers in line, vendors, contractors, as you know, all that stuff, Josh. So.
Let's talk about property management, because that your first deal, that was usually you have to have third party to qualify on your first deal, regardless, because of experience. But they make or break the property, really, and it's all leadership. It's still employees. It's still an operating company. Touch a little bit on property management, if you could.
Yeah, one of the things I tell people is it's amazing. We buy multi-million-dollar assets and we turn them over to run for a $40,000 or maybe a $50,000 employee a year.
Yeah,
because they're really the boots on the ground. They're the leasing agent or the property manager. And this one was one during the due diligence. We had identified the property manager had literally been on the property for 25 years. The owners, the existing sellers, had owned it that long, and she'd been there the whole time. And so she'd raised her family there. And we decided to keep her because of that knowledge. We changed companies, but we kept her. And that was turned out to be a poor move, because when we started to implement our business strategy of raising rents pretty significantly at the time, she was just incapable of doing that to the people she knew and loved as her neighbors versus a property manager. So we had to change property managers and find a new one. And Beaumont, Texas is not the easiest place to do that. We found a really great young woman who was very competent. She worked in commercial real estate, but had no multifamily experience. And so we spent a lot of time training her. And that's when I came to the discovery that, your back house of this company was really weak and poor. And so that's when I ended up stepping in to make sure our investors and the business plan was being implemented effectively. So I guess the takeaway to your listeners is you may identify, if you find a property and you're using third property, you may identify a good third-party property management, but really do your due diligence and have a backup or two early if you need to make a change, because even though you have somebody that's got experience, they may not have experience in that class of asset or that sub-market you just bought in. So I can tell you, I'm sure you have stories too about just properties have gone awry, and poor properties have been made to look very good because of good property management. So it is the heart and soul of the deal.
Yeah, and ethics come into play big time. You're collecting deposits, collecting rents. We've went through our learning experiences too with just your management. they're accepting payments through Venmo and then booking them in your system. And then that turned into a major, that's really what got us into property management, was the trust factor. And then having to find another property manager and then you bring it in house, and that you find out you've got full control. You can really execute on a business plan effectively on time. You can poke as hard as you need to poke and push. And you keep that in house, keep everything tight.
So you went in-house day one?
No, we didn't want to. I didn't want anything to do with it. Like a lot of people don't. They don't want to deal with it. But ultimately, you take that on, and you just become vertically integrated, and now you control the outcome, just like you had to step in and control the outcome.
Well, and I think those that are vertically integrated have a strategic advantage today in acquiring properties. And I don't know how many units you got, but as you grow, it's easy for you to scale and add on to that property management side. Again, going from 0 to 1 is the most difficult one, and property management too, I assume. But
it's slow growth. It's slow. If you're managing your own, you've got to be slower to absorb the growth and absorb and stabilize. It can be tougher. But it's meaningful growth too.
This is where your audience needs to really do their due diligence and ask questions of the proposed firm. What software do you use? Again, what experience do you have in this asset class, in this market? I've seen firms that have, I bought a C property, and they do A's in the market, but that's entirely different. So line them up early. Make sure you get in there early with whoever you want the respective property management company to do much of your due diligence with you or for you, so that they're seeing and making sure that your business plan is real and acceptable. So the earlier you do it, I think the better, and from a strategic perspective.
Yeah, my ignorance on the industry is a blessing and a curse, because you don't know what you don't know on property management. So we had third-party property management. Then on our end, I also had a Buildium subscription, to where I've always had my own set of books. When it comes to companies, you run your own set of books. So we were pulling data from the property manager, their reports, putting it in our set of books, and we just kept on reconciling month over month. And I had no intentions of ever taking over management, but I like to have my set of books and see anomalies. But when the time came, and we had another property we purchased, we had issues with that property management. We decided to take it all over, and we had systems in place already. By mistake, but it was just taking those actions, and we didn't start from zero as far as systems goes, but we learned as we went.
Well, you were really insightful, because you may have challenge with the duplicity early on between the third party and yourself, but that had to make the cutover to yourself a whole lot easier.
It helped. It definitely helped. But again, somebody listening right now, if they're wanting to get into it, there's a certain point to where you can scale by using third-party property management a lot faster, but you certainly are giving up control. And if something happens to that third-party property management company, if they go out, what is Plan B?
Plan B and C.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because you can turn and burn through a couple of them. Like I said, you're hiring a $40,000 person, putting them on site someplace, and unless they've got a ton of experience and a track record, you don't know what you're getting.
Yeah. And the properties, like you had mentioned, people living on site, managing it for year over year. there's a lot of knowledge that can be transferred from one person to the other. But if you've got someone that's already plug and play, they know the nuances, they know the leaks, they know you gotta tap 3 times and then shake it and it gets working, because that stuff is absolutely real on properties, and it helps having those people there as you transition. So
that's hilarious. Shake 3 times, turn to the right, bend over, move to the left. Anyhow, there's a proper order. You're right.
So tell us about the second deal, and then when you started picking up traction, because I'm assuming behind the scenes you're also gaining knowledge, you're going to masterminds, you're growing your network. And because syndication is a big thing, you're raising capital and you're building your team out.
Yeah, it really is. And so that was in 18. I think we sold it early in 20. I bought my second deal was at the end of 21. I partnered with a group that was out of Dallas, Texas, the same group that I'd been working with. I'd been working on the Beaumont property, but had started partnering with another group here in Houston. And we were looking at properties together. And this Dallas property came along. It's a Class A property. It's a beautiful property. It's 396 units. It was brand new. It finished up. It had been leased out like in early 20 or so. So it hadn't been very old at all. And so I am a GP in that one, but I'm not the primary GP in that one. And that one we still hold today. And then we bought one in this same group that I've been working with. We bought one in Houston. And so you can see the compounding effect once you start to do a deal and you start to raise a little money. It then becomes how much capital can you raise and how many deals can you do in a year? And so you become capital constrained. And that's why it's a team sport, as you know, and you need partners to really make sure that you can meet the loan requirements as well as the capital requirements. And so
I was reading in your bio, you've got a different way of financing some deals too. Let me find that real quick. I think you had mentioned it. And there's unique ways, but there's this one I think was utilizing retirement funds, possibly.
For investors, self-directed IRAs. So as you talk to investors, as you start to raise capital and you start to network, the question becomes how much capital can you raise? How often can you do it? And I found that I started when I first did it in a self-directed IRA. So if you are employed today, and you have one of your big custodians is Vanguard, Fidelity, Schwab, any of those big boys, they will not allow you to invest your IRA funds. However, if you're like me and I had left prior employers and I had money in an IRA, you can transfer your IRA money from Fidelity once you leave your employer to a self-directed IRA company. The one I use the most is Equity Trust in Cleveland, Ohio. And once you get your money over to Equity Trust, you can invest in all kinds of alternative investments, gold, silver, crypto, real estate. I have not done the others yet, but yes. So when you're talking to investors, they say, "I don't have $50,000, Randy. Do you have an IRA from a previous employer that's sitting someplace at Vanguard, Schwab, or whatever?" So it's a very viable strategy to move it over to a self-directed IRA custodian and then implement it for investing. It's the way I got started. I did my first couple ones that way, and then I don't use it as much anymore, but I still have money sitting in real estate in a self-directed IRA.
I was reading through it and I was like, that's interesting. Let's talk about that. So now I know. There's a lot of those things that just people don't know, and they've had it the entire time. So it's
and then you can get into different strategies too. There's a self-directed IRA and there's a solo 401k. So there's a lot of people that are high earners, doctors, attorneys that have side consulting jobs, and they put money in what's called a solo 401k. It's a different legal entity than is a self-directed IRA, but they can invest through that as well. So
interesting.
You got to get beyond the friends and neighbors in the capital raising sphere.
Yeah, and that's getting in the right rooms too. Were you all affected any by the rising interest rates with any of your properties?
We are. We have 2 properties right now that are under stress and are under constraints, but we're trying to fight through it to keep it alive. Yeah. It used to be the strategy was stay alive till 25, and now it's survive to 26 and 27. Yeah. So, it's a challenging market. Debt has gone up, as we know. I'll just say, Josh, used to be that if a syndicator had a deal that went bad, that was a really red flag from an investor's perspective. I can name you several really good operators that have regrettably had to turn one back to the bank for any number of reasons. It could be mismanagement, but most of the time, nobody just anticipated the Fed raising rates 5.5 percentage points in 18 months. And that debt constraint, even though we have rate cap insurance, that's a variable rate. If you bought it in 21 or 22, you bought it on a variable rate debt structure. the lender had required you to have a rate cap, which is insurance between the market rate and a cap on it. So that became increasingly expensive, and as cost rose, debt rose extensively, as we just discussed. Cost rose, labor cost, material cost, everything. So
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessarily a red flag like it used to be. If your investors are talking to somebody, I think it's a yellow flag that you have to ask a lot more questions about what went wrong and what's different about the current deal you're looking at. I mean, for me, it's simple. I'm not going to do variable rate every day. Again, I'm just not going to do it. So all the deals I've looked at in 23 and 24 are all fixed rate debt.
You're like Fannie or Freddie.
Yeah.
I mean, but your business plan changes too when you're using like that. That's when you went full cycle and then you go into the sunset with a Fannie or Freddie. If you want to do a short-term bridge, renovate and get the rents up and then refinance, everyone cashes out, and then you've got interest only for the next 3 to 5 years or full term. I mean, that's where the deal is just infinite. So, but I mean, it just depends on if you've got a Class A property, it's coupon clipping deal, then fixed rate all day long. It's just, but no one knows.
If you're taking one of those properties that's got a lot of meat on the bone, a lot of work to be done in terms of the physical structure, and you turn it over and re-tenanting and all that stuff, absolutely. You can. Your strategy is, like you said, infinite money there. You put money in it, you get it back, and you hold the asset, and that is.
It's got to be the right deal, though. You can't even. Those are unicorns right now.
I was going to say, when you find one of those, please call me. I'll invest with you.
We've been fortunate. I mean, it's just but it's slow growth. It's very slow, and it's you're going from deal to deal. Your top of the funnel doesn't exist. Could be a phone call of a pocket listing, and it turns out to underwrite. So it's very slow, but that's a strategy too. So
I think you're smart there. So many people want to. So I also, a colleague and I started a master class or a mentoring program in the last year. And so many people I talk to really are looking for the get rich quick scheme. Give me the 12 simple steps to do this.
Yeah.
And the short answer is, as you know, there isn't.
Show up every day. There's the secret sauce.
Show up every day and focus on it and concentrate on it, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And if you're not willing to do that, then invest passively in somebody else's deal.
Yeah, and have multiple groups that you can kind of scour through and see what they're offering, and learn how to underwrite, learn what a good deal even looks like.
Well, and that's what I coach with. And I said, you got to be able to articulate a good deal from a bad deal.
Yeah,
and everybody's is different. The differences in underwriting. Everybody says that we underwrite very conservatively, but I know you've looked at deals, and I've looked at deals that aren't underwritten conservatively.
Their reversion cap rate's still at 5
or 4, or something like that. And so the student, the educated person, has to understand the right questions to ask, and that's where I really think the value of. There's been so many people built into my educational life, real estate wise, from big box coaches that I've hired to others, and I'm sure you are. I'm a student of the game still. I've been doing it for 11 years, and I'm still learning a lot. So people complain about sometimes investing in coaching programs, but I don't know. I'm sure you did, and I did. I invested a lot of money in my own formal education, college and beyond. And that paid off for me a lot of years. So make sure you understand the deal. What are the real risk factors? We all talk about the upside, but what's the downside? What are the mitigating factors of the downside?
Yeah, it's the ticket. That is absolutely the ticket. What does 2025 look like for you?
Well, I think like everybody, you said the top of the funnel is really dry right now. I'm still looking at deals, but it's very few and far between. I think I really want to find, the lessons learned for me over the last several years is no variable rate debt, and the other one is it's got to be really cash flowing day one for me to look at it seriously in terms of a purchase. So, and those deals, as you said, are few and far between these days. So I've turned my eyes towards coaching, mentoring, helping others. We really want to give back to those that, like I said, many people have built into my real estate career. So I want to help others, and also looking at kind of going small. I'm trying to build a duplex, proof of concept. Got another partner I'm talking about just building a duplex. See if we can sell it, build it and sell it.
Well, one turns to two, two turns into four, and so on. I mean, that's a huge play. Build to rent is a huge play.
It is very popular, especially in the Southwest. I don't know how popular it is in Cincinnati, but it's extremely popular in the Southwest.
The units are. I mean, you're seeing more of townhomes being built. Garages, just full on like just townhome style, but it's build to rent community. The whole thing is just entire community.
And you're attracting a different kind of tenant there.
Yeah.
You're attracting a tenant that's really more of a tenant by choice.
Yeah.
Because they want to live there. They want to live in a place like that. It's more of a home, and they can't afford a home or the down payment to buy a home.
Or don't want the maintenance, the upkeep, the expenses, the variable costs for a home ownership.
And you get guys like me that are sooner or later, I say, give me about another 7 to 10 years, and that's going to be me. I don't want to mow the lawn or shovel the snow in Cincinnati or any place in between. So.
Yeah, 100%. That's you just want to worry. You don't want to worry about anything. Just drive from point A to point B and go to the beach.
I want to be able to close the door and go away for a month if I want to.
Yeah. And that's a huge play. It's gonna be no, I like that. Build one duplex, see how it goes. I mean, that's all. If you're the procuring all the material and labor, I mean, obviously there's upside there. But if you figure out the systems behind the scenes, get everyone marching, that could be very scalable.
The thought process is there. I've got a buddy that's actually done it, and so I was bending his ear a lot. But so let's say you build a duplex, 1,700 square foot or something on both sides, and you sell it for, I don't know, $500,000-$600,000, and it costs you $4 to make. I don't know, plus sales, and so I'm thinking you rent out one side, and then it's a house hack. You leave the other side for a buyer to house hack, or if somebody wants to buy it and then lease it out and be a landlord, that's great. But I actually started that way. And as a young married guy, our first home was a duplex like that.
Yeah.
And we were a house hack. We lived in half and rented out the other half.
Well, that's wait for them to get approved to buy the duplex. They use the other person's income and they get in there. Now they've cut their costs down. Yeah, that's huge.
It was a beautiful thing. And you got to like that. You got to want to be a kind of a landlord a little bit, but at least it's a landlord of one versus 139 or something.
Yeah. Well, and you're right next to the you're on premise, so it helps out for sure.
All day, every day. Yeah.
Cool. Randy, what books would you recommend listeners to listen to get some mojo going, see if they can find their swim lane?
The one I really like is I'm reaching up here for it is I'm sure you probably read it, but the Hands-Off Investor by Brian Burke. Great book for those getting started. Really recommend it because it talks through on the analytical side all the things that a passive investor should consider. And if you can do that from a passive side, then you can soon be a general partner as well. So take a look at that.
Awesome. Cool. Very good. Randy, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, reach out, learn more about yourself, your firm, how can they get a hold of you?
Well, Josh, I just again want to thank you for letting me be on the show. It's been a pleasure. If you want to talk, I'd love to talk to you about anything real estate. I'll talk to you about anything. Easiest way is, I'm sure we'll put this in the show notes. My coaching program is Multifamily Maestros, all one word, .com, multifamilymaestros.com. And my syndication business is InvestArk, ARK.com. And then either one of those pages is a discover call, or heck, if you want to call me, my cell phone is 281-410-5659. Text me. We can arrange a time to chat, and I'd love to get to know you.
Cool. Awesome. Definitely appreciate your time, Randy. Look forward to following you, and we will certainly talk soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Josh.
All right.